Hi, everyone. Theresa Nutt here from Your Deeper Calling, and I have this great opportunity to have a conversation with Michele. We're working together through the Center Within, offering our course, Expand Your Reach. And Michele and I decided to do this video where we take a look back and say, many moons ago, almost 20 for me and Michele, I know you're celebrating 20 years this year through the Center Within. We both launched a private practice of different kinds. And so we have this opportunity to maybe offer some of our humane stories about starting and struggling so that you know if that's where you are in the launching phase of maybe your new practice or a new evolution of your practice, that there are normal challenges everyone faces. And we want to just share some stories to hopefully normalize that for you. And for me anyway, 20 years ago, when I was really starting out, I was so embedded in traditional healthcare and I was a nurse and I was really super concerned about how people would think of me. And I remember a doctor asking me, it was 19, when was it? 2001, I started my coaching training. I put $5,000. I sent $5,000 to this company. I got back 10 pounds worth of paperwork that became my binders for my training. I mean, talk about a leap of faith at a time when no one knew what coaching was. And it just called me and I followed it. And this doctor was just asking me, so if I want to manifest a sports car, like, how people are really, really flippant. And of course, I'm thinking I need to tell, okay, well, how do I explain coaching? And I tried so hard to convince someone who never wanted to know what coaching was, what coaching was. So these are the things we all do in the beginning. We try to get, I don't know if it's external validation, but we try to prove to others that what we're doing is real and valid. I was so worried about getting just the right business name. And so I kind of got paralyzed by all of the choices I needed to make because largely I'd been working in institutions as a nurse where all the decisions were made for me. I had to show up and take care of patients, and how I did that was sort of pre-prescribed. And so it can be quite a leap if we have had standard, quote, day jobs and we're moving into a place of being more entrepreneurial and choosing to have a practice of our own. And so I think my first, sort of lesson in normalizing that I want to share is it's normal to feel like you're in a foreign country because you are if you've been operating in a very formal work environment and suddenly you are feeling the pressure of trying to get it all right when you don't have a lot of experience. So that's sort of my first 2 cents about starting out. Michele, what about you?
Yeah, we have a very similar background of mine came in through pharmacy and then came in through leadership. And I just always wanted to be sure that I didn't appear too weird or out of the mainstream or, looking for others to say, yep, you're on the right path when the path I was on was not the path that most people I knew were heading towards, but quitting my regular full-time job and doing some consulting and like you following that heart song when people started paying me for working with them for coaching. And I had by that time been spending a lot of my vacation time and money, right, doing training on things I was interested in and integrative medicine and spirituality and community building and studying world religions and practices. So it just felt like I was always had that one sense of leaning back versus forward in trying to get that understanding from people who weren't really interested in understanding nor had the capacity for it. And so I suffered from, I think, imposter syndrome. I only really let a part of me shine. I was very careful with my language that it matched the other person, kind of more chameleon rather than who I was in my own voice and finding my own language. And it was really only over time and taking those big leaps and starting off feeling like I had just been reborn, as you're talking about, and stumbling around and not being very confident, but I knew that I was moving in the right direction, and opportunities started coming then when I made the space in my life, in my time getting out of that full-time job. And it was also interesting to continue some of the training and really enjoying it, getting certified in a number of different things. But then also I felt another catch where, for instance, the Center for Mind Body Medicine, which is an amazing program, and I went through their professional training and their advanced training, or the mindfulness-based stress reduction was another one. And they were very set kinds of programs, and they weren't creative, they weren't innovative. You couldn't bring other people's information and your own into their curriculum. And so I really felt my ego wanted to say, well, I'm so important, right? I'm being asked to continue my training and to teach their work in the world. And I really had to take a hard look at trusting again my own inner way in the world that was inventing things. I'm much more of a pioneer. I'm much more on that cutting edge. I really enjoy being around visionaries and creatives and genius inventor kinds of people, rather than getting embedded in somebody else's program and being limited by that. And so I had to keep trusting and be courageous and not get caught in my ego and in, putting myself in a box that felt safer, but so much more uncomfortable. So it's been a process for sure, Theresa.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. I love how you describe that, because I think a bit of what happens when we follow our heart song and take this leap of faith into what we're called to do, that we don't, in the beginning, we don't even exactly know what it is. I mean, we have some training and there's something we know we're supposed to do, but it's sort of, we're not even sure what it is. Whereas, sorry, I have something itching my nose, driving me crazy. But we have this, like a training, like a nurse training. It's like 4 years of really intense training, and I know exactly what I'm going to be doing when I'm done. Whereas I feel like this more calling work that you and I are talking about, it often feels a little like you sort of know what you're going to do. You get some training, but it's a little less prescriptive for the most part. And you're following this inner knowing that there's something you're supposed to be doing, but you don't exactly know what it is. And so it does feel very unsettling, is a word that comes to mind when we start following it. But as you said, what I loved about what you said, Michelle, is that opportunities do present themselves. And I remember getting my first $100 check for coaching. I actually didn't even cash it. I framed it because I was so excited, right? Like there's just, the things start coming when we make space for a new way of being. And so being willing to follow that. And I think the other thing you said that is standing out, and I'm just holding on to it, is a lot of times we've surrounded ourselves with people who won't be able to follow where we're going, and that can feel alienating. So I think what I want to say to people is to know that you will find like-minded people. We hope this course offers some of that, if you choose to take our Expand Your Reach course, but there will be people who understand your journey of following that heart song. And Alan Alda has a great quote, and I might butcher part of it, but it's sort of like you have to leave the city of your knowing. You have to follow your intuition, is what he's talking about, to live your most authentic life. And so he has this beautiful quote, which I can't remember, but it's sort of like, yeah, you will get lost and you have to sort of wander off to find your true life. And I think that's really what we're talking about, Michelle. And it leads to, it's to me a little bit of the heroine's journey, right? Like we're sort of leaving what we've always known. We go out into the world. There are experiences no one can actually really prepare us for. We can sort of be prepared and we can have some plans, but what's put in front of each of us will be different. And to me, the beauty of being able to look back to that point is the medicine that I've gathered over the years through the struggles I've had and the things I've tripped on. It's also given me a lot of gifts. And I'm grateful that, if it had all been smooth sailing, no challenges, just, every step I took just led me forward, then I wouldn't have so much to offer. I wouldn't be making the impact that I'm able to make by going through what I've gone through. So if we can, with as much self-compassion and humor as possible, remember that we are on a journey of gathering medicine as well as moving forward, the process will be easier.
Oh, Theresa, such great words of wisdom. And I couldn't agree more. And one of the things you said that really sticking with me is to be willing to be in the unfamiliar and to have the sense of discomfort, not internally knowing you can't figure it out, not just so far out that you're uncomfortable and get paralyzed and stay there, but where if we're going to be constant lifetime learners, that is about continually stretching, right? Our outer limit of where we're uncomfortable, and then we rest into and get familiar, and then it becomes comfortable. Technology, for instance, in our 2 decades of working, my heavens, they're radically different than they were year in and year out. And so if I'm going to move forward and move, for instance, into new technology, I'm going to be uncomfortable, and I have the inner skills to figure it out, and it is unfamiliar. And so that sense of knowing that we're in the right place because we're uncomfortable, and then knowing and applying our own tools to gain the medicine, as you say, right? The skill through the arduous sometimes process of becoming familiar with things is very true. And the other part, Theresa, that you mentioned, which I couldn't agree with more, is the magic of finding our tribe. And as we continue to grow, it's like, yes, there's a part of me that has grieved the loss of some of the relationships in the way they were really tight, or even things I used to enjoy that now seem boring. For instance, as I've kind of continued to step more and more into my power, gossip, for instance. I mean, I have a real low tolerance for talking with people who want to talk about somebody else. Usually people I hardly even know. It's like, and not even in an arrogant, less than way, just in like, there's so much exciting things happening in my daily life, in my new thinking about things and creating new things. And I think it's that coaching mentality in us, right? It's like we're co-creating who we are becoming, and to look backwards only, or to need to put people down, for instance, to feel better. It doesn't resonate anymore. And the willingness to be with that, then other people, I mean, I've been invited, I'm sure you have too, into organizations, into projects, into relationships where I can feel the kindredness, and then making that effort to say, yes, I want to have coffee with you. Yes, I want to co-create this class with you. I enjoy being with you. You challenge me to continue researching and continue finding new ways to do PowerPoints and 100 other things that you, Theresa, invite me to continue growing and supporting that growth. And so again, it's this very collaborative, very you win, I win. It's completely out of the mentality of, well, there's only so much and we're going to have to fight over it, right? Even just the whole way of being in the world that I used to feel like I better protect my intellectual property and not share it. And now we have such a big movement towards open source information, for instance, and that a lot of the wisdom that you and I bring is live in the moment. I mean, we teach with the teachings that come up, with the skeleton of the wisdom of ourselves, our own experience, as well as other thought leaders. And so the whole process continues to morph and evolve, and to trust it, to trust ourselves, and to know that we're in the headlights, and that's kind of as far as we can see, but there'll be other stuff coalescing beyond that, that if we get too far into control and needing to plan everything, we're going to miss opportunities that are going to arise that are unpredictable and unplanned. So fun to think about this with you, Theresa, and really always fun to hear your stories.
Yeah, well, you too. Thanks, Michele. Okay, so I had to look up that quote because I just have to get it right. You have to leave the city of your comfort and go into the wilderness of your intuition. What you'll discover there will be wonderful. What you'll discover is yourself. So wise words from Alan Alda. I just had to get them right because I thought they were just perfect. And I think the journey of being a true entrepreneur who follows their heart song, who follows their deeper calling, which is what my work is all about, is about that journey. And Michele, I just want to sum up by saying I so appreciate that one of the things in the beginning, I think it's good to be willing to try things and have them not turn out well, to learn who you are and who you are not. I'm sure you have had similar experiences where I did some collaborations in the beginning that were actually a bloody nightmare, and I would really rather never repeat them. But I learned what works. And one of the things I treasure about you, and there are a million, is that I feel like I can be the fullness of myself with you, and I can use all of my gifts. I don't outshine you. You don't outshine me. We complement one another. There's room for both of our brilliance and our magic. And we get to be the fullness of who we are, and we each bring something a little different and similar enough that we really resonate. And so I just want to honor that in our relationship and just tell people, if you're just starting out, you're going to have some duds as it relates to collaborations, but to the best of your ability, learn from them. Don't take them as a failure on your part, but a learning about what really creates flow for you in your work and what doesn't. So just a little of our musings about what starting out really looks like. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Theresa. Look forward to doing some more collaborating with you.
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle.